Hey everybody, how's it going? This is a supplemental video for the Fortress Monster blog post called Target Priority Shooting. It's the second installment of Target Priority, in which I, through my opinion and experience, say how you can maximize the phase, this phase being the shooting phase. So I thought I'd show you my Tau as eye candy for the video, considering I've had them out recently, and the shooting phase is what they're good at. So if you're wondering, they're painted in Commander Oshova's heraldry, I guess you call it, or colors from the Tau Codex, because it's their the Farside Enclave. Anyway, shooting phase. Shooting phase, in my opinion, is more important than the assault phase. Yes, the assault phase is brutal, fast, and can wipe out whole squads in one guy. One guy can wipe out whole squads, is what I mean. But the shooting phase is more important in my opinion because not every army is good or capable at the assault phase. Space Marines can do it, Tyrians do it, Orcs do it, Eldar can, Dark Eldar. Yeah, that sounds like a lot, but all those armies can also shoot. And pretty much every army can shoot decently enough. Orcs can, because they got sheer numbers, 30-minute squad rolling a bunch of dice will hit you enough times to cause a problem. Tyranids are decent in the shooting phase. And pretty much everybody is. So more armies can turn the tide of battle in their favor during the shooting phase than the assault phase. Tau, for example, Necrons, Imperial Guard. Space Marines may have an easier time depending on what weapons they're shooting at what. So because of that, that's why I feel shooting phase is more important. Also, shooting phase happens statistically more often than the assault phase. I know some math hammer right there, but if you think about it, as soon as you get within shooting range, you're shooting at somebody. Even if you're running up transports, you're shooting at people. Like even if you're running up land raiders or transports or whatever, assault transports, being a land raider or open top things, so you can assault something right away. You're gonna shoot it with everything else. And basing on the size of the table, for 2 out of 3 deployment options, you're gonna be within shooting range right away with your heavy weapons. So that's why I feel shooting is more important than the assault phase. So what do you do? Well, the weapons, aside from Necron Gauss weapon, which is effective against everything, weapons have 2 categories in general. There's a third category for all comers, which I'll talk about, and that includes missile launchers and essentially plasma guns. Melta to an extent, but anyway. Anti-tank guns, which are Melta. The Melta rule is all about anti-tank. Last cannons, bright lances even. These are all anti-tank specialty weapons that you shoot. They either have a special rule like Melta or the lance, in addition to being high strength, low AP. So the opposite of that is stuff like heavy bolters, assault cannons, even scatter lasers. A decent strength usually, but not the greatest AP and lots of shots. These things are great in infantry, especially anti-horde infantry, where you just can unload a lot of shots downrange at the enemy. So what do you do? Well, for example, the railgun on the broadside here. Strength 10, AP 1, 72-inch range. You're not going to fire that at tactical squads or gene stealers. You're going to fire that at monstrous creatures, because it's going to wound it. You're going to fire it at vehicles, because you want to blow them up. Stuff like that. Conversely, heavy bolters and whatnot, you're going to fire at infantry and not the rhinos, because they have a hard time hurting rhinos. Now, the all-common weapons really are plasma and missile launchers, because plasma has a high enough strength that they can destroy light vehicles with relative ease. 50-50 chance. They can even go so far as to glance heavy vehicles, as long as they're armor 13 and not higher. Plus, they have the low AP, so they're really good at taking out elite infantry like Terminators or Mega Knobs, or at least wounding them. The high enough strength means they can instant kill toughness 3 guys. And pretty much, if you shoot it at a plasma infantry, you're gonna guarantee bypassing armor. Which is why I call it a general all-comers weapon, because it can do decently enough in enough scenarios that it's viable. Then you have the missile launcher. I'm going to talk about the Space Marine one. You have your frag missile, small blast, strength 4, AP6, or something like that. Great at taking out hordes. Great at this, or at least wounding infantry, especially if they're bunched up in cover, or if it's a big squad, you're going to hit it. And you're going to, because of how scatter works, potentially not scatter at all or very little. And everybody that's touched by it is hit by it. So that's a lot of wounds you can potentially do with one shot. Or you can load a crack missile into that thing and fire at a vehicle. That can hurt any vehicle. It can glance armor 14 on a 6, and it can blow up light vehicles. So there you go. Those are the all-comer weapons. Cover is huge in 5th edition now, which affects shooting. So stuff like plasma, melta, anything, railguns are gonna get stopped by cover a lot more often than they used to. The nice thing is vehicles and monster features still have a harder time getting cover, so you can still pop them. They're not as easy to pop in 5th edition or wound, but it's still there. It's not like you can't do it at all. So what do you do with cover? Well, you can use a template weapon. I don't have a flamer on my battle suit here, but I'll get that. Or air bursting fragmentation projector, which is also ignores cover, but it's a large blast. But its specials ignores cover. But anything that's a template, using a flamer template, ignores cover. Heavy flamers, hellhounds, stuff of that nature. The drawback is they're short range. You have to get in close, and it works well if you're going to assault because it's an assault weapon. But you have to think about stuff like that. Flat out ignoring cover is great. You can hurt things and actually make them have no save at all because they're relying on a cover save. Then you have blast weapons, which I like too. Because blast weapons are a one-shot weapon, yeah, just like the flamer. So you get one shot a turn. But it has the potential to hurt lots of guys per shot. And it may not ignore cover, but with the plasma cannon, for example, you're going to ignore armor for sure. So you're forcing a lesser save for things like Terminators or Tactical Marines, stuff like that. And it's a high enough strength, so you're going to wound whatever you hit for the most part. And yeah, so if there's a squad, let's say 30 Arc Boys in there, and you hit 10 of them, you're probably going to wound 9 of them, if not all 10. Yeah, they're going to get a 4+ cover save from the plasma cannon, but you just did a lot more wounds than if you shot it with a plasma gun or if you shot it with a las cannon. So it's because it's blast. Stuff like that. What else is there? Also keep in mind what your army can do. For example, Tau have marker lights, which is why the Shazwi is here. The Fire Warrior, he's a Shazwi because of his, you can tell from his shoulder pad. But I'm going to lose focus. But Tau, for example, have marker lights. Marker lights, if you get enough counters on the enemy, can remove cover completely. Because one of the rules is you use a marker light counter to reduce the cover save by 1. Thus turning a 4+, to a 5+, and so on and so forth. So you gotta know your codex and how to deal with cover, and sometimes it just involves shooting a lot. You do enough wounds, you can't possibly save them all statistically. Things are gonna die. One more thing to talk about is the assault phase. If you're going to be doing assaulting with your army, you have to pick what you're going to assault and then either not shoot it or hope you don't do too many wounds so you can't assault it. Because if you do too many wounds and they're out of assault range or you wipe them out, now your assaulters are high and dry, you can get killed. So that's the gist of target priority assault. I'm going to do more videos dealing with shooting, like shooting weapons, in the future. So until next time, take it easy.